Hello peeps, Averageteadrinker here, and this is going to be one of my dungeon guide series I will be doing for the War Within Season 1. Today I'll be guiding you through the Necrotic Wake dungeon where it has had some changes since it last appeared in Shadowlands, but we're going to go over all the important bits throughout the video. Now, throughout the dungeon, there are going to be weapons you can pick up, and you'll want to make use of these on the bosses and trash packs. They are a one-time use, and you'll be able to hold two different types, but not two of the same as they are unique. So just for an example, you could not hold two of the discharge anima orbs. First being the bloody javelin, this is going to shoot in a line towards your target, so anyone in between that will also get hit. This applies a stackable 20% increased damage taken debuff, so this would be great for bosses even with just one or multiple. Next is the discharge anima orb. That deals pulsating damage and silences enemies every 1 second for 10 seconds. This one is great for big pulls, especially when you go into the third boss area. Lastly is the discarded shield, which reduces damage taken by 50% for yourself and allies within 8 yards, and it lasts for 6 seconds. This is an instant cast now, so you can use your other abilities whilst the duration is going on, and I'd recommend to save this for heavy AoE damage scenarios to your group. In this first boss area, you'll have these little Blightbag mobs which put a stacking disease dot on players when they die, so be wary if you do pull a lot of them at one time. If you do have a way to dispel yourself, you should definitely do this after you get a couple of stacks. Next is the Corpse Harvester, which has a nasty cast called Drain Fluid, which is a channeled incapacitate on a random party member. This can be kicked, and if no kicks go through, make sure you throw some CC, otherwise you can have a really angry teammate whilst he watches you all do damage and he gets Darth Vader choked. For tanks, the Vanguard casts Bone Claw, which does hit pretty hard, so make sure you do have a defensive rolling for this. They also gain a stacking buff, Seething Rage, on successful melee hits, which can be soothed, so if anyone in the party can do that, definitely do it to help the tank. There is a Gatekeeper mob here, but you'll never really want to pull these mobs, so if you do, good luck. Before you pull Blightbourne, I'd recommend to clear as much of the mobs for the extra space in this area, just to give yourself more room with his abilities. There is a patrolling Blightbag pack, so just be wary of that if you did not pull it prior to pulling the boss. For the boss itself, he will cast Heaving Wretch on party members. This is a targeted frontal, so I'd advise your group to stack up beforehand, and then whoever gets targeted by the frontal just moves behind the boss. It is a disease dot on the target, so the Wretch itself hits pretty hard as well, so make sure you have a defensive running, and if you have a way to get rid of the disease dot yourself, I would definitely do this. Once the Wretch has happened, it's going to spawn 3 carrion worms, which is going to fixate on random party members. If they hit you, they will gain a 30% increased damage buff per hit, and if this stacks to 5 times, they will then explode, dealing a heavy dot on your party. Make sure to use any slows and stuns just to keep them at bay, and if you have a way to DPS them down safely without being hit, definitely do so. When they die, they will spawn a fetid gas puddle on the floor, which is basically just a green pool. You'll want to move away from this as it does silence you, so it kinda emphasizes the tank to move them. The boss also casts fetid gas, so you'll want to move the boss around the room, and this is why you cleared the area earlier, just to give yourself more space. Lastly, there is a tank buster called Crunch, so pay attention for this when this is being cast, and definitely have something rolling for this. Up the stairs after the first boss, you'll be dealing with the Necromancer and his minions, which are going to consist of melee mobs and caster mobs. Use any spare kicks on the Necrotic bolts just to help your tank out, and then use any of the CC and stops to stop the cast from the mages. You need to be hard focusing down the Necromancer. I know all the juicy AoE damage is right there for you to be taking, but once the Necromancer dies, all his allies die with him. Be an ethical player and don't pad on all his allies, and I'm sure your group will be giving you pats on the back for that. You will also cast Grim Fate on a random player, which will explode in a swirly around you, so just move away from your party if you are targeted by this. There is a mini boss here, and I definitely recommend to skip this because it is quite a difficult one alongside the pack. You can use your normal Invis potions or Shroud to get past, and if you're very tightly hugging the left hand side, you can skip it as well. Next are the Marauders, who have a nasty frontal cleave on the tank as well, so just don't stack on the tank and hope that he doesn't like skateboarding and does a 180 flip with these mobs. They will also have a fear cast called Rasping Scream, and lastly, they will cast Bone Shatter Shield on themselves. Hard focus this shield once it comes up, because if you break through it, it takes away almost all of their HP. The Bone Menders cast Bone Mend, which heals them for 10%, so use kicks to stop this. When they get low health as well, they're going to cast Final Bargain, which is going to heal a mob for 80% of their HP, and then also apply a dot, which takes their HP down at the same time. So it's best to just try CC and stop this heal altogether. The next trash are the Bone Carvers. They are pretty dangerous for the tank as they cast Bone Flay, which puts a bleed on the tank alongside a 15% reducing HP debuff, so pretty nasty. Try to stop these casts for the tank if you can, and they will love you long time. Now, a quick thing to note I noticed in my M0s the other day, they've seemed to have swapped the Patrolling Skeletal Monstrosity with the Necromancer pack. So before you used to fight Amarth, you used to fight the Necromancer pack, and then there was a Patrolling Monstrosity. Now you have to fight both, so not sure if this is intended for Mythic Plus, because the last time I did beta, it was as it was back in Shadowlands, so now they seem to have changed it. So if this is the case, I'll just quickly go over the monstrosity abilities, because you're now going to have to deal with it. First, it's going to cast Shatter on the tank, so use defensives for this. It's also going to cast Reaping Winds, which sucks you into the mob, and it will freeze you if you're still in the circle, so use any move speed increases to avoid this. And then lastly, just dodge the Frigid Spike whirlies on the floor. Now the second boss, Amarth, he's going to cast Necrotic Bolt throughout the fight, which can target any of your party, so try to have a kick rotation for this. He's also going to gain Unholy Frenzy at random times, which can be Enrage Soothed off. Again, throughout the fight, he's going to cast Land of the Dead, which is going to summon 5 adds. These need to be focused down before he finishes his cast of Final Harvest, otherwise it's going to deal heavy damage per mob left up, and you'll most likely wipe if there are adds still up. In these 5 mobs, there's going to be Warriors, Crossbowmen, and 2 Mages. The Mages need to be focused down first, and you always want to kick or stop their cast of Frostbolt Volley. Try to get these mobs grouped up just so you can AoE them down under the boss, and if you're a tank, just move the boss towards the adds. There is a little bit of a tech where if you time your CC for the Final Harvest cast finishes, if you're unable to DPS them down quickly, if the mobs are in the CC effect and the cast goes off, they will instantly die and you won't take any damage. Once the adds die as well, they'll do a swirly underneath their corpse, so just be wary of this as he is casting Final Harvest. For each dead minion or player, the boss will get a stacking buff as well called Tortured Echoes, so try to use defensive CDs and healing CDs for this. The boss will cast Necrotic Breath on random party members, which is a rotating frontal, so just make sure to dodge this and pay attention to the direction it's rotating. Now that Amarth is dead, you will take the Kyrian Angel upstairs. You'll have to defeat all the enemies up here to spawn Stitchflesh. You'll be dealing with the Collectors, which also has the Drain Fluid cast you dealt with earlier in the dungeon. This is also paired with another high priority cast, Gore Splatter, which must be kicked as it's a heavy disease dot on the party if it does go off. Next is the Stitchwork, which is going to cast Tenderize on the tank. These are the big looking mobs. Tenderize is a stacking physical damage taken debuff, so try to kite or drop your stacks. Also, there was tech back in the day in Shadowlands where you had a pet class or someone who was able to taunt to take a stack for you, just in case you get too many. Alongside that, you will cast Mutilate, which hits harder than Tenderize, so have defensives rolling for this one. The Fleshcrafters are going to do a cast called Throw Cleaver at a random party member, and it's going to hit the first thing it comes into contact with. You can aim this on the enemy mobs, just put it in between yourself and the Fleshcrafter, or that one annoying teammate or class you don't really like. I'm joking, or am I? They will also cast Repair Flesh on the Construct to heal it, to interrupt this when it starts. After you've cleared the room, you'll spawn 1 Stitching Assistant and 1 Separation Assistant, which have similar abilities to mobs you've dealt with before. The Stitching Assistant casts Drain Fluid, so kick this as normal. and then the separation assistant is going to fixate on a random party member which you'll want to run away from when you are fixated. You can use stealth dropping abilities for this fixate or bop, so you can just stand and tank it. Both of these mobs cast throw cleaver as well, so try to line up to hit the other assistant, and if you are targeted in the unfortunate event by both of them, just pop a defensive and hope the tank is a hero and just tanks them both for you. After you kill these two, Gorgrind will spawn on the left, which has the same abilities as the Stitchwick with Tenderize and Mutilate, and it now also has a random frontal called Gut Slice, so pay attention to this. Next is going to be Rot Spew, who has a Mutilate again for the tanks to deal with, alongside another ability called Spew Disease, which is going to target a random party member and put a puddle under your feet, which you'll want to move out of. This move itself does hit pretty hard, so pop a defensive for this one. Rot Spew also has a disease cloud around him, which kind of deals like an AoE ticking damage within 8 yards for enemies, so if you are melee, be paying attention to this, and healers, just make sure anyone close by is being topped off. When he dies as well, it's going to drop a pool on the floor similar to the Spew Disease, so kill Rot Spew on the side of the room, otherwise you'll have to deal with this when you fight the next boss. Speaking of the next boss, Surgeon Stitchflesh, he's going to start immune at the start of the fight. He's going to be on his platform, and you'll be dealing with the Creation mob here. This again has Mutilate for the tank to deal with, and it also has the Ticking Aura AoE for those nearby to it. Whilst the boss is on the platform, he's going to cast Stitch Needle, which is a bleed on random party members, and he's going to throw Embalming Ichor on the floor, which is like a little pool. You want to position yourself kind of towards the entrance of the room, so you don't want to drop these Ichors in between the boss and the Creation. As the Creation will then cast Meat Hook throughout the fight, which is going to be targeted on a random party member, and this is how you get the boss down. You want to position yourself in line with the boss on the platform, and then it's going to hook the boss down off the platform, and then you can either send Lust and you just save all your cooldowns to DPS the boss. The boss is then going to start casting Sever Flesh on the tank, and he will also do a fixate, just like the assistant earlier. So if you have a way of dropping it or having bop, so you can just stand and tank it, definitely do that. You can reliably use the meat hook to stop the fixate as well, so if you position yourself and you're the one fixated in the same line that someone else has done the meat hook, should hook the boss and then you can just carry on as normal. On the third meat hook, Stitchflesh will jump back to his platform. If you pre-position this onto the platform where he's going to be, you can just instantly pull him back off. When the next creation spawns, make sure to finish off the previous creation just to help the tank survive, and that's the fight. Now that you've killed Stitchflesh, head upstairs through the portal and you'll be now fighting the last boss of the dungeon, Rimebinder. Tanks will be dealing with the Icy Shard cast throughout the fight, but it should really be named to Physical Shard because it deals physical damage instead of ice. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Blizzard. The boss will also cast Frozen Binds on a random party member, which needs to be dispelled as it roots the target. If you're stood in this whilst it gets dispelled, you will also be rooted, so make sure to stay out of other people's circles, and if you do have it on your own, move away from others. You can pre-Blessing of Freedom the person targeted to negate this cast completely, or use an immunity. Make sure to dispel this relatively quickly because the next cast from the boss Comet Storm makes swirlies under your player's feet and party members for 4 seconds, so pay attention to your own positioning and others because you may end up walking into each other's and they deal lethal damage. If you trust your teammates in melee, you can rotate around the boss together for more uptime. At certain points in the fight, the boss will gain a shield called Icebound Aegis, which is where you'll probably want to use your defensives. You'll need to DPS through this as quickly as you can because it deals ramping AoE ticking damage. Lastly, the boss will cast Dark Exile on a random player, which sends them downstairs to deal with a gauntlet where you dodge swirlies, get to the end, kill the ad, hit yourself a ride back up on the angel, and then depending on how long you take in the phase, you're going to get a stacking debuff called Frigid Cold, where the more stacks you have of this, depending on how long you take to get through the gauntlet, it will create a bigger pool when you get dropped off back upstairs. So as soon as you get back upstairs, maybe hit the boss for a second or two and then place yourself in the corner. I'd recommend to use move speed increases just to get yourself away from the frozen pool. And you'll also get a nice damage buff increase when you return back up. So try to align your DPS cooldowns with this. That does conclude the Necrotic Wake Dungeon. Hope this video helped you through Season 1 for some fat Rio gains, and if you ever want to catch me live depleting keys, go check out my Twitch. I really do appreciate you guys watching the video, and if you did get some help out of this video, throw a like, let me know what you actually got help with in a comment, as it really does help you boy with the old algorithm. And an extra special thanks to the Patreon supporters. Catch you in the next one.